Okay, so one of the other things I do, and I've shown this before, but sometimes again, I don't think I always explain things as well as I could, shame on me. And that is using weapons to be able to train my body to learn how to position myself where I need to be. In other words, anytime you put an object in your hand, especially a weapon, it actually changes the way you move, and I've discussed that in other videos. When I'm practicing on my own, the other thing I do is I want to feel, again, just like with the ball, all the way down into my feet, feeling my body drive this wooden Vulcan more than just trying to do it with my arms. I'm doing this with my left hand because it also brings out another point. I'm actually a righty, but I do a lot of synchronization work with my non-dominant arm to be able to build that ability, because in a real fight your arms are equal, but also it pushes my ability. It takes me out of my comfort zone. When I'm flipping this thing around with my dominant arm, I can do all kinds of stuff. With my non-dominant arm, as I'm trying to duplicate those kind of things and model them, because it's my non-dominant arm, I also got to be careful not to hit myself in the head or something like that with a stick. Not that that's ever happened, right? And so as I'm practicing, moving, feeling the body drive this, it's not just me pushing back and forth and moving. I'm actually feeling and concentrating on feeling this all the way down to my feet, through all of my joints, through my whole body. And what I'm doing is I'm training my body to be able to position itself where it needs to be to accommodate the control of the weapon. When doing that, and you take the weapon out of your hand, what you'll notice immediately is the level of control you have all throughout the body, even when you start adding speed to it. It's second to none. I think in the martial arts, one of the biggest problems we have is we don't do enough training in terms of developing our neurology. Everybody wants to, learn how to do this technique or that technique, but they're not looking into the neurology and the functionality within the body of how you make technique work. Remember, there's no magic to technique. I'll be honest with you, I see a lot of stuff online. I know there's a lot of people who criticize different techniques, but the reality is if you move well enough, you can make a lot of that stuff work. But the problem is people get so wrapped around using just the technique and not figuring out, okay, if I'm going to throw a punch like this, what do I need to do? How do I need to position my body to be able to make that work, especially if I'm doing it against somebody who's moving? The other thing I do is I like to use these padded sticks, and I've shown this before. What the idea now is when I'm using the padded stick, I can now start using it on my bag. Plus also it's not going to tear my bag up. But the idea behind it is, notice what I'm doing. Pushing from the root, just like I was before here. Only now, as I'm pushing, I'm timing it to where as I'm landing and dropping into that step, decelerating my mass into that step, I'm hitting. And what it's doing is it's helping me learn how to coordinate my body and develop my timing as I'm moving and doing different things, but also teaching me how to position my body properly. I talk a lot about stepping and how I step and doing different types of steps. And stepping is probably not the best word. Really what I want to think about is just, as I'm moving, and I try not to step on something, trip over it on the video, is really learning how to position my body where I need to be. Notice as I'm doing this, everything again is generating from the feet. Everything is generating where I'm driving from the feet, driving through the legs. So even if I don't get a lot of turn, and I think that's another misnomer too, I'm still pushing off the ground. I'm still pushing from my root. I'm still generating power from the ground. Another reason why it's important to develop your balance, because without balance, there is no power. And by being able to control my equilibrium, I'm not hitting this hard because I want you to be able to hear what I'm saying, it allows me to position myself at any range where I'm always in the right position where I can strike. Remember, in a real situation, if you don't hit them, if you don't injure them, if you don't kill them, you know, or if you don't destabilize them some kind of way where you incapacitate their ability to fight back, it don't count. So I'm always trying to position myself where every strike counts. I'm not trying to get into a long, drawn-out, knockdown, drag-out fight. You know, that's sport fighting. I'm not interested in any kind of sport fighting if I'm out in the streets. If I want to do sport fighting, then I got to train to do sport fighting. I'm not trying to do sport fighting. So I'm always trying to work my neurology, always trying to work on developing my body to have that explosiveness. And so this is one of the ways in which you can do exercises. And, you know, I'm just giving you ideas. You know, you can make up anything you want. And I'll get into it of how I go about some of that in the next video of how I think about how I want to do stuff. It's kind of a repeat of stuff I've talked about before, but you know, I like talking about this stuff, but more importantly, it's something that is not said enough. And unfortunately, it causes people to go kind of down, you know, the wrong rabbit hole, so to speak, in their training, where they're wasting a lot of time when they could be doing something else that can get them to the place they want to be much faster.